Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So in today's video we're going to go over Pizzica, and I'll do a little bit of 5-star gameplay and let you know what I think about her. Now the most important question of all is
she hot or not?
I'm not sure if she's hot, but she certainly looks yummy, and just so you know, I love sushi. Anyways, our newest Siren, Pizzica, is a fire bow pierce user, and she's got some unique moves that we'll go over shortly. So her VC is only at level 2, restore MP as well as status and immunity one time. That has limited defensive capability, so I mean if you need to fit that in on a team, go ahead. Now note that when you activate any moves that include singing, she does lock in and gain 10% AF at the end of each turn. And also note that her third quest is not available until later on. Now these are the 3 moves I'm going with. So singing lasts for 3 turns, and while she's singing she cannot do anything, she just stands there. However, there's a continuous effect. This is a very defensive one. Damage received minus 50 when singing is activated. Also end a turn heal and restore MP and restore all statuses. And I'll be demonstrating that later on in this video. She has a lot of defensive as well as offensive capabilities, and it's going to be really interesting to how fit her in on various teams and move composition. So looking forward to experimenting more with her as well. Now the one I find very, very useful is the Rhapsody Aria. So this is, again, singing for 3 turns. And while she's singing, crit rate 100% guaranteed. Damage inflicted plus 100, so that's double damage. And at the end of turn, inflict break on all enemies. So keep in mind that when you get guaranteed crit rate 100, crit is essentially double damage. And you're doubling the damage again. And you're applying break, so that at the beginning of next turn, you can do double the damage again. So you can see how effective this one is. In terms of her spam move, you can use Recitativo, Fire Pierce AoE, and crit of damage of all parameters plus 30, and lance and bow equipped characters damage plus 30 for 3 turns. And in any zone, that means flash strike, elemental, and weapon zones, double the buff effect and effect turn. So essentially in any zone, 60% boost as well as 6 turns. You can see how useful she'll be in a pierce team, zone team, fire team, so on and so forth. Now in terms of some other moves, I mean, this one type resistance down and inflict multiple statuses. Not guaranteed, so I wouldn't play too much with that. And you can see the duet arrows, not very useful as well. Grand Finality is the last 5-star move that we can cover. I don't find this very useful, but because it's kind of like a hybrid move, you have damage inflicted double and received damage less 30. So kind of a mix between the first 2 songs I've chosen. And it does restore a little bit HP at the end of turn as well. So I guess if you want a more balanced approach to your team, you can use the Grand Finale, but I certainly feel that the other 2 songs are a little bit more useful and certainly much more polarizing in use. So here's her 5-star board, and we'll just scroll upwards. Now in terms of her personality, she actually is not an Eastern or Western unit, she is a Northern unit. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more Northern units in the future. And in terms of Grasta setup, you can use any which way you want. She's not really meant to be a DPS, so you don't have to focus on multiple pain and damage Grastas. So let's take her out for a spin. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So first of all, being that her DPS is not the highest, she's best used as a support. You can use her obviously as a healer if you use this healing singing and damage reduction one. If you want her as an offensive support, you can use the offensive singing. In terms of killing mobs, she can still do that relatively adequately against the right weaknesses. However, in terms of fighting horrors and such not, she can't really do too much on her own. However, she's a great staller. So note this, that when you activate the song, it only costs MP once, and it's locked in for 3 turns. Kind of like his Mina normal style where you do that Azul, I guess, Rosa, and it's locked in for 3 turns. You can't do anything for the 3 turns. However, I mean, in this case, she's just tanking the damage, recovering HP, and recovering MP. And note that if you're facing her one-on-one, she really can't take down any horrors on her own. Now, how she really shines is a multitude of teams. So let's demonstrate with a full-on Melissa ES Molina team. And what we're going to do is pour all our buffs onto Milsha and pour our debuffs onto the Unseen, hopefully ending it in one turn. And I actually want to show you a little bit of timing as well. Now, remember that the description on the songs, especially the Rhapsody aria, is that the break will occur at the end of turn. Now, note that Milsha's attack is also at the end of turn. And so I was wondering if break applies first or the attack comes first. And I've done this in a couple of different scenarios over and over again. And unfortunately, the attack comes first. So you aren't able to, for example, really take advantage of the break status until essentially the beginning or the next turn. So let me know in the comments below if you found a way to kind of circumvent this particular flaw. But I think the devs made that on purpose such that you can't really super abuse it and end it even more quickly than you already can. I mean, the fact that you can activate the song during the AF is really ridiculous as well. Keep in mind that when she is activated in song, she does not participate in the AF anymore, and she can't do anything if she's standing around during the regular turns as well. However, if you activate it at the end of AF, you'll get all the benefits of the double damage and crit rate 100 without too much of the disadvantages there. Now, in our next example, we're going to put her on an all-fire team and see how she does as a pure support and offensive support here. So we've equipped Fire Zone Grasta on Pizzica. So Pizzica will establish Fire Zone, and the whole point here is obviously to set up a one turn AF, make sure we have all our buffs on our team, all the debuffs on the enemy, and then at the very end of the AF, we cast Rhapsody aria. Now note that I already cast her spam moves, so keep in mind that in zone, which was Fire Zone, they give crit damage up 60% to your whole team, crit rate 100%, and these are for 6 turns as well. Very, very powerful move, and I activated the Rhapsody right at the end so that we get the benefits of the break status now. And note that I applied physical resistance down using Dragon God Slash, and note that before, the twins were pretty hard to deal with. However, with all of these buffs and debuffs, we can push through each of its HP stoppers in one turn. So there you go. Aldo, another one. And don't be so cocky. Well, Carolyn and Justine, I believe now is the time that I can be cocky. You didn't even stand a chance. You didn't even get to move. And I didn't even have to use Melissa. Now that is pretty ridiculous that Pizzica can essentially power a team on its own, provided you have enough Grasta, as well as obviously other kind of synergies. So in this case, we went with a full fire synergy, and being that Pizzica is a fire unit, she does boost all that damage, obviously, and can participate in a fire zone AF. Now, keep in mind that if you are using her in a Pierce Zone, and I didn't demonstrate that in this video, you can certainly make use of that boost of bow and lance equipped weapons on your team by 60%. So very, very useful, essentially as powerful as a Pierce Zone unit like an AS4, where at the end of turn, you can boost up to 60% if 4 Pierce moves were done that turn. In her case, she essentially does it as a one move, and it's a continuous spam move. That's her damaging move, right? Because realistically, the song is only going to be activated either at the end of the AF, or if you really need a lot of damage and your other DPS are more than capable, you can activate the song technically in the middle of AF and just have those harsh DPS teams hit over and over at double damage guaranteed crit. And obviously, I'm using a lot of Grasta holders in order to maximize the damage on all 3 of our DPS units, which is AS Yuen, Aldo, as well as AS Hosuki. Now, in our final example, we're going to demonstrate a little bit more of a defensive play, because a lot of you probably are wondering, how is she as an offensive nature? So we're going to take on a very tight and difficult fight, the dual Hachios featuring Yasuzumi and Ogre Rancorum slash, I guess the Tanuki. So anyways, we are starting off with her defensive song, and remember this one is the end of turn heal, status cleanse, as well as MP recovery. Now first turn we obviously use Pride to tank that 999 MP loss, And we're really just all about setting up mitigation using judgment as well as having the song in play. Now, the benefit of the song in play is it doesn't matter if your unit is in front or in the back. Once they VC into the front, the song is in effect and the damage is essentially reduced for all front and back units to my knowledge. So very similar to using a Nokoko, where if you cast Cat Deity Guardian, you have shields, type shields and physical shields on front and back, and that allows for a lot of flexibility in switching in and out, and you won't be afraid of, for example, VCing in an unprotected character and have that character bite the dust from a large single target attack, unlucky, or a large AoE. So in the case of this fight, like I said, remember that the song lasts for 3 turns, and it's actually a perfect counter to something like Yasuzumi, where the effect of Yasuzumi is essentially poison every turn, and even though we're poisoned, guess what? MP recovery, and status recovery, and HP recovery as well. And keep in mind that as you go through the different rotations, remember that every 5 turns or so, Yasuzumi will drain your team for 999, and in the past, we would have to have used Pride to tank that because we would have no MP and no way to recover. But in this case, essentially, once I used Pride to set up the first turn, it's all about kind of tinkering around with the team and just the setup of your team to do enough damage to Yasuzumi. So in the case of obviously using Aldo, we are going to be using things like Dragon God Slash. We're going to be using Pride of Miglance to boost Aldo. We can also use the increased crit damage from Nokoko as well, which is the Cat Deity Flame. Now, of course, in the first sense, we still have to wait for the 50 MP recovery, but that also fixes another problem, where in longer fights, you either run out of MP because you do too many moves, or in the case of Yasuzumi, it just drains you every 5 turns. So really, it reduces Yasuzumi's effectiveness against us, and all we have to do at this point is make sure we keep the pressure up, do enough damage, have our shields up, and in the case of Renri, making sure we have judgment in play such that we can keep the power, int, and speed down for as long as possible. Now, if you're wondering what I did here, certain points of the fight, you can actually rotate people in and not be too worried. For example, on the turn 1 of the rotation where Ogaran Korma stands around and Yasuzumi just drains your MP, you're actually not vulnerable, seeing that you now have shields in play. In this case, I took a little bit of a risk and VC'd in Renri, and although I took an AoE from Yasuzumi, it wasn't enough to kill us, and now we have Judgment back in play, MP recovery, and so on and so forth. I mean, I don't really have to repeat that. It is a little bit longer of a fight, so certainly not a 2 or 3 turn mega kill, but like I said, this is really more to demonstrate how long she can help you last. And as I said, I think she can be used in a multitude of situations. I do like her offensive capabilities a lot more, but you can't ignore the fact that she can reduce damage by 50%. And if you think about it, you have a zone in effect that can reduce damage by 50% of the opposite element. You have her in effect that can reduce damage by 50%. And if you use things like type shields, power down, dual debuffs, or other shields like Cat Deity Guardian, you're really only taking a fraction of the damage normally you would be taking. Like, I don't know how experienced you all are in fighting something like Ogre and Korm, this dual Hachio. It is a tough battle, and before, you're taking 10k hits, 5k hits, and very tight rotations. With all these shields in play, you're taking a couple hundred, and now that the Yasuzumi moth has been extinguished, we are all about wiping out Ogre and Korm, getting our bar up, and ending the Tanuki right there and then. So this part of the fight is actually, we're just coasting at this point. Okay. Again, let me know in the comments below, if you've experimented with Pizzica, or if you've had some experience, checking out some advanced strats on using her. Like I said, I've just been experimenting with her today. I've been actually pretty busy trying to catch up with other content on Another Eden. Anyways, so we're changing gears here, and if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I activated the song for Rhapsody Aria, and I think I mistimed this activation because you can see my team is actually quite crippled, no MP left over, and remember that now that we don't have the song to help us regain MP at the end of each turn, we're really crippled and have nothing to do with a couple of our units. However, On another note, we can activate an AF almost at any time. Keep in mind that if I activate one now while she is singing, you get the benefits of the effect of the singing, which is the double damage and guaranteed crit. However, you are now losing her ability to contribute to the AF, and so obviously you are, you'll have one less person hitting and maintaining the AF bar. Now, remember I did mention that at the end of each turn, she regains an AF bar by 10%, which is actually very, very useful. So even on a stalling tactic, if you didn't have someone draining your AF bar, you're getting at least an AF bar in a minimum of 5 turns, even if you're purely defensive and just stalling. Imagine a team of 4, her in front, and then your other supports, just shielding. You have a half bar, and then you can activate it. Anyways, in this case, we're ending the fight right now. The Tanuki does not have an HP stopper in this second phase, and we're all about boosting using everything we can here. Keep in mind that we used her spam move and gave everyone plus 60% crit damage as well. And finally, we activated Rhapsody Aria just for fun and to end the fight right there. So hopefully you enjoyed this demonstration. I know it's a little bit longer of a video than I usually put out, but I really wanted to take a little bit more time and experiment with Pizzica. And by no means am I an expert in using units such as her. I think she is very complex, and I think there's a lot I could learn in terms of using her more easily. However, I would say it's a general build to just kind of tailor the moves to the style that you want to play. And if you want her song to go first, make sure her speed is faster than everyone else on the team so that she can sing first, giving those buffs or shielding to your entire team either before the enemy acts or before your team acts to do the double damage. And then you wait for the break at the end of turn for the beginning of the next turn. So this is my loadout as usual. Obviously, Aldo 255 is still the start of the show, doing a ton of damage and supported by all those other units in play. Anyways, in conclusion, I think Pizzica is a very unique Siren unit. She has a lot of interesting abilities, and I think she will be a great mainstay as a supportive unit in many team comps for a long time to follow. Not to mention, who doesn't like Sirens? Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.